take that.
Oh, no worries. And you got your phone.
Thank you.
To those in the back, hopefully you can see the bottom. I tried to not put too much at the bottom so you can see from the middle. We're going to start by actually just giving a shout out to the organizing committee. A wonderfully run conference. They treat the speakers well. Everything's been lovely here. Food was great. We're sticking to this schedule. Thank you. So, LiveView. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. So, this stuff is up online. So, the main thing you want to remember today is you don't need to write too much down. I'm Andrew Forward. It's at A Forward. I've got a MPEX 2019 LiveView organization. So any code that I haven't pushed out publicly, I've tried to capture what I was doing to put into the LiveView. I'm at Andrew 8 Forward, and I have a blog post kind of that talks a little bit about this stuff. Those that actually go to look at the code, try and take a peek at the Git commits. I really love telling a story with my Git commits, and so you can actually get a good summary of what I'm trying to do, as opposed to I'm fixing a bug, still fixing the bug. Hopefully this will fix the bug. I'll go back and, there are use cases where rebase works really well. So again, if you're looking at the code, don't just look at the final product, actually flow through with it. The goal, or what I hope to instill on everyone here, is some LiveView in action. We're going to actually see it, lots of examples, see how it's being used. We're going to look at migrating to LiveView. So maybe you have some jQuery code that's okay, but you really want to up your game and you're not quite ready to jump into React or Vue. We're then going to take a look at usability and how we can get UX on the cheap or cheap-ish with LiveView. And then there's going to be a few hacks and gotchas and things because LiveView is only months old. So lift your hand up if you've heard of LiveView. All right, so everyone's hands up. Great. Now take it down unless you've played with it. All right, so we've got perfect. And who has it in production? Who has it in production? Yeah. Oh, and there it is. Yeah, the Nerves Hub team. There's no official shout out here, but we did some training yesterday, and their LiveView is fabulous. So LiveView is actually in quite a few places. We've done a lot of games with it, and there's a few applications out there that are doing it, but we've got some great examples of how we've done it. So I've just done a curated list, and there are other curated lists out there as well, so I will call them out. But here, what's great is you can actually get a look at a live demo. So you can click on the link and actually see it working. So this is an ant farm concurrent LiveView. You can actually look at the code. People have written some wonderful articles about LiveView. Some about how to just set it up. Others about, do I really need this? Should I use this? Should I use it for React or not? And then the two main videos, I would say, would be Chris McCord last year. That got us all excited about it. And then the one a few months ago about it actually being available to everyone. And then again, a few other slides there. So I love investing, and in particular dividends. And this is kind of what stemmed my foray into Elixir and LiveView. So when you own a little bit of a company that pays a dividend, so for instance Hasbro, you get paid, and you get paid through dividends. So they're going to give you 68 cents every few months, and you want to track that. So we've got Alice owns 100 shares, and Alice owns 200 shares, and Bob owns 100 shares. So every quarter they're getting $68 and $136. So what are they going to do with this? Not a lot of money, but of course they love investing, so they're going to reinvest it into buying more shares. And this is a process called DRIP, for Dividend Reinvestment Program. So Alice gets a free share every few months because she has enough to buy a new stock, which is $100. Bob, on the other hand, doesn't, because he's not making enough money for it. So we want to go out there and solve this problem with software to how can I optimize to get Bob to say, hey, you just need to buy 53 more shares, and then you can start dripping again. So we're going to implement some forms. We're going to track a few bits of information. What's the ticker? How many? And then there'll be some sort of form submission. When you're editing, not everything is on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. In Canada, TELUS is a T, and in the US, AT&T is a T. So you do actually have some information under the gun to make it a little bit more complex. So the edit form is a little bit different than our friend the add. And let's see this in live. So we're just going to say, well, I'm Hasbro. I will admit my keyboard is a MacBook Pro keyboard. So it's excellent. We said Bob is at 100. And, oh shoot. I don't know if you can see that, but my edit buttons aren't there. And that's because of a conflict between the back end drawing pictures and the front end. And the front end's a little bit behind, so it's not quite working. Shoot. So we'll do this there. All right. So what I have pending, and yes, we're going to do this live, is we're going to add LiveView so I can throw out all that duplicate JavaScript to do some painting on the client, move it 100% to the server. And the reason why I'm jumping right into this now, because it does take about 8 minutes to deploy, but we're going to hop in and do that. So we've got this thing, and this is totally done super live. We're just going to merge it. And yeah, no, it's going to dividends.io right now. Welcome to LiveView in production. Okay. Oh, those are my notes. Okay, so let's do. Let's make that bigger. Cool. DevOps, super important. So I'm not quite there where I want the server to decide, or the system to decide when to push it. So I'm going to tell it. So we'll just do a git log -1. Trust but verify. So we have a merge to the LiveView. Perfect. So I'm assuming it works. I'll run the tests, and that should be enough, because if I did have it hooked up for pullback, then it should work. So between master and that, well, it's running through. So back in olden times, when we all wrote PHP and connected to MySQL, we would get the portfolio, post an update, maybe get an edit, and come back. And at each time, we're generating the view, all the states in the one place. It's worked great. Still some complication, because you still need this state management to know, okay, these ones are editable, this one's read-only. I want the button to be pink or blue or purple. So it wasn't all roses on the server. Test pass. We'll hop back into there. And we're just going to version up. From an OPSI standpoint, I like to drop little breadcrumbs everywhere. So we're going to go from version 32.1 to 32.2. Unlike Linux, I'm okay with really high version numbers. So if you go here, this is the live, and it's just the 31. Just so I'm not hand wavy, this is actually going to production right now. And we can kind of watch, we watched it in action, so we'll go back to here. So this is olden times, right? So in newer times, we're going to use APIs, right? So the front end is going to have to connect to the back end, because the back end is doing the work. We're not making a single page application where everything is on the client. We actually need the back end server to do some work. So we're going to create this lock. We're going to create a reply, but really it's the same, just now it's in JSON. So here is an example of some lovely JavaScript in jQuery. We're going to register the event. We're going to have some initial API calls. We're going to have to aggregate the data from the client. We're all doing this anyways with the old server-only side. It's now just in our newer route. So we've got our API endpoint. It's going to talk to the server. We have some sort of handshake. The client needs to know what the data is going to look like. Here it's JSON. It could be YAML. It could be GraphQL. It doesn't really matter, but you need to decide on that. And the client needs to update. So if you're using a Vue or React, then it's really just the state changes, and then your model and components will update for you. If you're just using jQuery, then here we're just going to do some template replacing. The nice thing about the client side is you don't necessarily always have to poke back to the server. You can kind of do client side only manipulation. So again, here, very simple. Server side is going to render both the edit and the view, and it's just going to toggle the read only or editable. Let's just see. Sorry. Keyboard. There we go. All right. So watching the newer version in action that we hopefully will see, we're adding this stuff. And then now we can actually get our lovely edit buttons. And then we expand it out. We can do some more stuff. So we're hopefully going to see that live in a few minutes. I just want to talk a little bit about the ceremony versus substance, so or ceremony or boilerplate. So again, this idea of having our server API routes, the data handshake, all these things we didn't want to do, but we had to do based off of the technology we were using, right? I didn't want to expose an API for managing the stock, but I needed to do it to get that rich client side. The substance, these are the things that regardless of if you're using React or Vue, plain old JavaScript, things you're going to do anyway. So really it's a CRUD application, so creating the stocks, editing them, updating them, and deleting them, that's all of the substance. We'll just look at a second example. So here we're doing a multi-part form. This application is not used very often. You're going to come in once every few months. You're not day traders. So you're going to enter in your email address, and then you're going to get a little bit of feedback. It's going to say, oh, go check your email, get a token, come back in. And then you will eventually get logged in. So just to watch that in action, let's see here. How are we doing? Still going. All right. So I did deploy this portion of LiveView already, so you can see this in action. So here, a forward plus, we're up to test 3. So again, it did some stuff on the back end, sent an email address. I believe I have a search here to grab it if it comes through. And then once that's grabbing, I can either click on the link within the email, or I can say no, I'm going to take the token. I don't trust that URL is actually going there. And we're in, and we're still at 31, so we're going to leave that there. Just note that LiveView login is in hack mode, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later about how I was able to say, oh, this is a forward test 3. But using sockets in LiveView. So again, from a substance standpoint, we're generating the token, sending the email, we're validating the token, logging into the user. So there must be an easier way. I don't want to have to pull out React to get very simple form validation and pushback. So we know the answer already. It's LiveView. LiveView doesn't work everywhere, but for a case like this, it works really well. So you're getting client-side behavior. You're getting sort of no JavaScript or no custom JavaScript, and it's all server-side code. And again, there is JavaScript. The JavaScript's hidden from you through the LiveView JavaScript code itself. It's using Phoenix channels. It has its own set of JavaScript. And then we've got various Phoenix events that are available to poke it in. So this is actually a user interface to Dave Thomas's Hangman implementation using Diet. So I took that, put a small UI on front of it, again, just as I was playing around with how LiveView works. Super high level. The main important things is you need to mount your view. So you're going to have some default session you could pass in, and then it's a tuple responsive OK or socket. It is going to do it twice, which we'll see in a moment. So you can actually ask, hey, is the client set up? And if you're not set up, you still get the plain vanilla HTML. So it's SEO and LiveView play really well together. And then within your templates, looks like EEX, but it's live EEX. So you're going to have sprinkled a few event handlers in there, and that's going to have callbacks with handle event, handle submit, things like that. So at this point, we should be deployed 032, and let's see if it worked. So first thing, kick me out of the session. That is a part, but we're at 32. Sweet. So let us start dividending because it is free. So here we got our Hasbro. We said Alice is going to get 200 shares. I'm going to add the sock. And then now I can come in. And it already knew about Hasbro being NASDAQ, but maybe there's one that's in the New York Stock Exchange that I could change it to. And then I could save it. But I don't want to do that, so let's undo that. And then we'll add in Hasbro's 100. And then we'll come down here, and then we can see, so it says, we've got 68 cents, 138, and I can kind of pop around and do a few other things in it. It's not really the point. It's LiveView that we care about. So how does LiveView work? The first part is your regular HTML get. You're just going to go in and make the call. You're going to make a second call, and that is the client-initiated call to be like, I'm going to try and make a call back to make sure that this client can support LiveView. From there, it looks very API-ish, but we're now using events and event handlers to, again, do the substance, which is the sending the email, generating the token, redirecting the account, and the view now all exists in the server. And sockets aren't sessions and connections, so do be wary of that. So we're going to go through a few refactoring to kind of show what I just did with the deploy. So first thing, again, we've got our secure URL that we put in as a class tag anyway. That now just becomes a formalized Phoenix submit. So we throw all that code out. On the back end, that secure URL is now a unique name that the backend server is going to have to handle as an event, which looks very familiar because it's really just a gen server, and your socket now is the state-ish that's going to be sent back and forth. Our do code, they actually generate the token and send the email, that all exists. We just pulled it up out of the API and dropped it into the code here. And it's state management, so now we need to give a few hooks to the UI to say, oh, paint the happy path message versus paint the error message. We had some templating on the client side, if that's mustache, handlebars, or just plain old HTML. That gets moved, put inside of the LiveView EEX. And again, we have the same kind of information available as with regular EEX. And we throw all that code out. So the JavaScript code's all gone. So bye-bye to JavaScript, bye-bye to the routes. For hello LiveView, we really just moved the API code into the LiveView code, and then the EEX into the LEEX. But almost tit for tat. You'll see there's a little bit more in the LiveView. That's because we pulled that out of the JavaScript for the additional templating. But you can do much more aggressive testing. So before we could really only test the API and that interaction. Now we can actually test the client-side behavior because it's no longer client-side. It's actually server-side. So to do this, you've got your LiveView test helper functions. And I just like to use a little bit of ceremony so that way the tests always refer to endpoint and view as opposed to if it's a login LiveView or the portfolio LiveView. We're going to start the LiveView with a mount, and it's going to return back same function that we had before. We can now render submits, render events. It's just plain old HTML that comes back. So that same kind of assertions we had on the on regular non-LiveView works as is. depending on how much you want to split it up, you can now also do your API behavioral tests. So not only do we want the secure URL to paint the right picture, but we also want to assert that a email was sent, that the URL for tracking it work as is, and it says, for instance, the secure login for dividends.io. So the same example for the migration. Again, we're not going to go through what we did, but same idea, same approach. We were able to migrate the portfolio JavaScript, throw it out completely, got rid of the routes. We moved the API, which was in a naughty gen server that was not needed. So we threw the gen server out, and it goes right into the LiveView. And again, pretty much identical EEX, just 6 extra lines of templating code. So where is this useful? How are we going to do this? So first off, it is very hard to make things look and be easy. So LiveView does not make your life any easier from a usability or user experience standpoint as far as how the system should behave. It will help you to implement it. So again, when we talk about the user experience, we're not talking about the beauty of the application, right? So we had yesterday we did some training with Nerves Hub, or with Nerves, and Nerves Hub has integrated some of LiveView, and again, it really has helped to improve that experience, despite them maybe not being the most graphically inclined developers. All right. I've got about 8 minutes to explain to you all the theory of usability. So first thing is read all these books. Second thing is, at the high level, there's, what's that, 8? 7. 7 real tenets for usability. With LiveView, you can get feedback and safety and affordance on the cheap. You still need to give good copy for your feedback. You still need to implement some of this stuff, but you can get that on the cheap. And you can also get simplicity and flexibility here, also on the cheap. So how are we going to do this? First thing that I like to do is I like to put a TikTok in my live views. And the reason that we do this TikTok is so that way I can force the div diff on the client to run some custom JavaScript, because again, sometimes we might need to do some custom JavaScript. So here, my script at the end will always be different for the client, and so now I can write whatever I want. The red means bad, so don't do this unless you really have to. And it should be limited to one-liners, and it should be pushed through your actual apps.js modules that are available. Do not write reams of code here. It's just this idea if you want to write one thing at a time. So why would you want to do this? So a very practical example is with focus. When you go visit a page, the browser gets you one focus. Even if you have refresh, or even if you change the HTML and change the focus, you only get the one. So here we can kind of put the focus on the best available item based off the live view. That does need to happen with JavaScript. And so we did push this in there that way. And again, you'll see that the bottom is a new form versus the edit form, and just sprinkled with this TikTok. Another thing is obviously Elixir, super fast on your machine, also super fast for your business idea that has no users yet, still crazy super fast. So what I like to do is put in a fake wait to try and actually test the maybe slightly slower behaviors that might happen. So all that we're going to do here is we're going to block on the call with a 5-second wait, and that lets me see if I've got my margins, my padding all set up. This is kind of the out of the box what's available with LiveView for doing total form manipulation. Don't write your CSS in Elixir EX. Use what's available. So Phoenix has done a great job, or sorry, Phoenix LiveView has done a great job to use what is available. Inputs are read-only, and buttons are disabled when you submit forms. Make use of that, and make use of that in CSS. Don't tack these on within your LEX code. If it is a long-running service, you could delegate it back to yourself and actually make it a multi-step. Don't do this. Though, try and make it faster, or actually try and push it through a separate asynchronous call, because the handle info will block all of your live view until then. So if you have other sections that could be editable, then this approach kind of falls down. But you do have this control to have I'm doing a bunch of stuff and I want to give a totally separate view display until I'm done. And then it's just a gen server, so I just send myself a message that says, oh, the doing is done. Now I can go push the update. The events that we care about from a user experience standpoint, first start with Phoenix change and Phoenix submit. Right? If you want to get really fancy, then you can start to do blur and focus to do field-wise event processing. Say, hey, this doesn't look like an email. Are you sure? Your password strength. You can also do even more low level with key up and key down. There are also some Phoenix non-event things that are available. So again, UX on the cheap, you can just have a disable with. This will just put text in there saying, I am saving or ... You have a few classes that are available that you can provide for when it's connected, when it's disconnected. And the Phoenix loader, that happens when you submit a form. And so in that case, that's where you can have full control over the view. And then if you want to know about Phoenix Ignore and Target, you can read the docs. Simple undo. Relatively simple by saying, well, we're not going to undo. We're going to schedule undo to happen in 5 seconds. And every time you do an action, we'll pin that on. So the pitfalls and the gotchas. We've got 3 minutes, and we're going to go rapid fire here. So first off, it's new, and it's going to be buggy. And what's nice is that this is an opportunity for you to give back to the community. So it's not a bug. It's a PR. Right? And as I was preparing for this talk, there were several PRs that I've pushed through to either make the documentation better or to actually fix code as they move towards getting some of this into Phoenix proper and leaving some of it delegated back to Phoenix LiveView. I don't use NPN very often except to get JavaScript for my Phoenix applications. Phoenix LiveView version numbering not changing right now. It's 0.1.0 dev. Force the upgrade, otherwise you're not going to get the latest code and you're going to wonder why all the features aren't available. And again, this came into a pull request against the documentation saying, oh, maybe add this so others don't have that same issue. It is getting better, but also, make it easy for LiveView and MorphDiff to find your tags. Give them all IDs. You can have some issues where if you're swapping out the form and you want different behavior, so you have different Phoenix submits, but the diff has a hard time distinguishing that. So just throw an ID in there to ensure that you get the appropriate event callback. LiveView templates love explicitness. So this is faulty code because the template is not changing. Here, we are running through a bunch of colors, but the randomness is actually hidden behind the call. So LiveView template doesn't change, even though that method call would. So here, we'll see, and sorry, this is at the bottom. You'll see the tick-tock is ticking and talking, but unfortunately the fill is not changing. And that's because we need to have the template change. So we need to now explicitly call out EMPEX and have its change through the assignment of variables. So now again, we'll see. Oh, haha. I put the same video in twice. But I totally swear it works. Yeah, so this is that running with the good version. And just quickly we'll notice that again, it's diffing. So you get awesome client-side diffing, and you also get very efficient server-side diffing. That's coming in with messages. If you want to figure out what all this stuff means, then go watch Chris McCord's second video. Authentication. So we can hijack the flash messages to store private messages, and those private messages could be, hey, this user is logged in. And then when you redirect to a new page that now is your account authenticated page, you can just peek into the flash and grab the user record. And it's totally fine because it's encrypted. So it's secure from a standpoint of the message should not be able to be tampered with any more than someone could tamper with your socket, your connection session. But just beware that there is a better feature coming soon to kind of allow you to talk between your socket and your connection after the fact. But if you really want LiveView for your login, then this will work, and this is how the app I showed is currently set up for that. So how do you get started? You have a few options. Lots of great tutorials out there on how to get set up. I have a pull request to have a -- live. You need to go into my my repository to do it. And if you do it, you get this lovely Phoenix setup where it's just toggling the images. 1.5 should have it as a you need to explicitly call it. 1.6 should be a default. This is what I believe is going to be happening, but don't hold it to me. It might come sooner, it might come later. So again, the only thing I want you to remember was, if you don't remember anything, just remember me. So that way you can ask me, say, oh, you gave a talk, but I was doing something else. Can ask you a few questions about what's going on. And that is it for LiveView.